The Walking Dead ran for 11 seasons, over 170 episodes. And if you count the spin-offs, we're talking Dead City, Daryl Dixon, The Ones Who Live, World Beyond, Fear the Walking Dead, and Tales of the Walking Dead. That's over 250 episodes of content set in the same zombie apocalypse. And across all of that, fans have come up with some of the most creative, terrifying, heartbreaking, and honestly, just flat-out insane theories you have ever heard. Some of these are backed by real evidence from the show. Some of them are deep Reddit rabbit holes that will make you look at the entire series differently. And some of them, honestly, might actually be true, and nobody is talking about it. Tonight, we're going through 100 of them. So get comfortable, grab your pillow, adjust your blanket. This one is going to take a while. And if you fall asleep somewhere around theory number 30, honestly, mission accomplished. That's the whole point. But if you stay awake for all 100, you and me, we're best friends now. Let's get into it. We're starting with the biggest one. The theory that, if true, would basically erase the entire show from existence. I'm talking about the Rick Grimes coma theory. So here's the setup. In the very first episode of The Walking Dead, Rick gets shot in the line of duty and falls into a coma. When he wakes up, the world has ended, walkers everywhere, hospital abandoned, society collapsed, and Rick just missed all of it. He went to sleep in a normal world and woke up in a nightmare. Now, fans on Reddit started asking a really uncomfortable question. What if Rick never actually woke up? What if the entire show, every single episode, every death, every community, every villain is just a coma dream happening inside Rick's unconscious mind? It's a wild idea, and it actually gained enough traction that the creator of The Walking Dead, Robert Kirkman, had to personally address it on Twitter. He wrote, and I quote, "Rick is not still in a coma. The events of TWD are definitely happening. So that should have killed it, right?" But then, literally moments later, Kirkman followed up with another tweet saying, "But Carl and everyone else are all imagined. He actually never found his family. He's been crazy since he killed his first zombie." And then he added the hashtag joking with a question mark. So even the creator couldn't resist messing with people. The theory is officially debunked, but the fact that Kirkman played into it, even as a joke, tells you something about how deep this fan base goes. Alright, theory number 2, and this one is about where the virus actually came from. For the longest time, the origin of the zombie outbreak was the biggest mystery in the entire franchise. The show never told us. The comics danced around it, and Robert Kirkman seemed perfectly happy keeping it that way, because as he put it, the story was never about the virus. It was about the people. But here's where things get weird. Back in 2013, there was a side story in the comics called Small Bites, written by Derek Hunter. And in that story, it's revealed that aliens crashed on Earth and inadvertently caused the zombie apocalypse. Yeah, aliens. Now, a lot of people assumed that was a joke. It didn't match the tone of the series at all. But in 2020, a fan asked Kirkman directly on Twitter about the virus origin, and Kirkman confirmed it. He said the zombies were caused by a space spore. A space spore. So according to the guy who created this entire universe, the Walking Dead zombie apocalypse was started by something that fell from outer space. Whether you take that seriously or not is up to you, but that's the official answer from the man himself. Theory number 3 takes us away from space and into a very specific laboratory in France. This one isn't even really a theory anymore. It's basically confirmed lore. In the Season 2 finale of The Walking Dead World Beyond, there's a post-credits scene that changed everything. We see a woman inside an abandoned biomedical facility in France, a place called La Biomédecine, searching through old computer drives. She watches an old video from Dr. Jenner, the CDC scientist from Season 1 of the original show, and then a man shows up with a gun and accuses her and her fellow researchers of creating the zombie virus. He says they started all of this. She tries to argue, saying her team wasn't even in the lab when it happened, implying that someone else released it. And then he shoots her. And then, the real kicker, her body reanimates. She comes back as a walker. According to the Walking Dead wiki, the virus, officially called the wildfire virus, originated from this French facility and was first discovered by the CDC on April 16, 2010. It spread worldwide and was declared a pandemic on August 25, 2010. That's a window of about 4 months from discovery to the end of the world. And Dr. Jenner, back in Season 1, Episode 5, actually referenced it. He said, and this is on screen, day 194, since wildfire was declared. So the clues were there from the very beginning. The show just took over a decade to connect the dots. Theory number 4 builds on that French lab reveal. Some fans believe that the wildfire virus was never meant to be a weapon or an accident. They think it was originally designed as a cure for death. Think about it. What does the virus actually do? It reactivates the brainstem after a person dies. It literally prevents permanent death. The host comes back. Now obviously they come back wrong. They come back as walkers. But the underlying mechanism, the ability to restart biological function after death, that sounds like something a team of scientists might have been trying to achieve on purpose. And the theory goes that researchers at the French lab were working on a way to conquer mortality, and the virus was a prototype that mutated or went haywire before they could perfect it. It's never been confirmed, but it lines up surprisingly well with the actual science the show has given us. The virus lies dormant in every living person. It only activates after death, and it specifically targets the brainstem, the most primitive part of the brain, to bring the body back online. If you were trying to create immortality, that's exactly what you'd aim for. You'd just hope it didn't also make people want to eat each other. Theory number 5 is one that a lot of casual viewers don't fully appreciate. Dr. Jenner, the CDC scientist from Season 1, told Rick a secret that Rick didn't reveal to the group until Season 2. Everyone is already infected. Every living person on the planet carries the wildfire virus. You don't need to be bitten. You don't need to be scratched. If you die, for any reason, you come back as a walker. The only way to prevent it is to destroy the brain before reanimation. Now, the theory that spins off from this is fascinating. If the virus is already inside every human being, and it's been there since before the outbreak, how long has it actually existed? Some fans think the virus could have been dormant in the human population for centuries, maybe even longer, and something triggered it to activate. Maybe it was the French lab's experiments. Maybe it was environmental. But the idea that every person walking around in Seasons 1 through 11 is essentially a ticking time bomb, or carrying the thing that will eventually turn them into a monster, that's one of the darkest aspects of the entire show, and the characters barely talk about it after Season 2. Theory number 6. This one is fun, and it connects two of AMC's biggest shows. The Breaking Bad and Walking Dead shared universe theory. So in the very first season of The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon's brother Merle has a bag of drugs. And if you look closely, the drugs are blue. Crystal blue. The exact same shade as Walter White's famous blue meth from Breaking Bad. That alone could be a coincidence. But then there's more. In Breaking Bad, there's a car dealership called Glenn's Car Lot, and one of the cars on the lot is a red and black Dodge Challenger. In the first season of The Walking Dead, Glenn Reed drives what appears to be the exact same Dodge Challenger. Alright, then there's the story Daryl tells about Merle's drug dealer. He describes a guy who is always saying a specific word that, if you've watched Breaking Bad, sounds exactly like Jesse Pinkman's catchphrase. Both shows are AMC productions. Both are set in the same general part of the American South, and the showrunners have never officially confirmed or denied the connection. They just keep dropping little breadcrumbs and watching fans lose their minds. Theory number 7. The variant walkers were always part of the plan. When Daryl Dixon premiered and showed us walkers in France that could run, walkers that burned with acidic blood, fans were divided. Some people thought it was a cheap gimmick, but others pointed back to that World Beyond post-credits scene where Dr. Jenner's video discussed what he called variant cohorts. He was talking about different strains of the virus and different approaches to dealing with reanimation. The French scientists weren't just studying one type of walker, they were dealing with multiple variants. So the theory is that the French lab didn't just accidentally start the outbreak. They may have created multiple strains of the virus, either intentionally as part of their research or accidentally through their experiments going wrong in different ways. And those different strains are what's causing the variant walkers we see in France during Daryl Dixon. It also explains why walkers in the main show, set in America, never exhibited these abilities. Different strain, different continent, different mutations. Alright, theory number 8 ties into the speed of the collapse. The wildfire virus is called wildfire for a reason. According to the established timeline, once the virus went airborne and began causing mass reanimation, civilization collapsed in roughly 2 weeks. 2 weeks, from a functioning society to total anarchy. Now some fans theorize that this speed wasn't natural, that a virus capable of spreading that fast and that effectively had to be engineered for speed. Think about it from a biological warfare perspective. If you wanted to create a weapon that would topple a nation, you wouldn't want something slow. You'd want something that moves so fast that by the time anyone realizes what's happening, it's too late to mount a response. The name wildfire itself, which was the official designation used by the CDC, reflects exactly how fast it burned through the population. And the fact that the French lab was doing classified research, presumably the kind of research that the public never knew about, supports the idea that this was always more than just a scientific accident. Theory number 9 goes back to Rick Grimes and asks a question that has haunted fans since the pilot. How did Rick survive in that hospital? He was in a coma. No one was feeding him. No one was hydrating him. The hospital was overrun with walkers. And yet, somehow, Rick woke up alive. One popular Reddit theory suggests that Rick was actually bitten or scratched by a walker while he was unconscious, but because his brain activity was suppressed during the coma, the virus couldn't fully activate. It couldn't trigger reanimation because his brain was already in a diminished state. And that's why Rick seems almost supernaturally hard to kill throughout the rest of the series. He survives the gunshot. He survives the coma. He survives an impaling. He survives a bridge explosion. The theory is that the virus, in some mutated or partial form, is actually helping him heal. It's not full reanimation. It's something else. A low-level regenerative effect that keeps bringing him back from the brink. Now there's a counter-theory from a writer at HitFix named Donna Dickens, who argued that Rick's coma might not have been as long as we think. She theorized that the hospital had only recently fallen, maybe days before Rick woke up, and that doctors had been keeping him alive on generators up until the very end. That's a more grounded explanation. But the zombie healing theory is way more fun. And theory number 10, the biological warfare angle. This one takes the French lab reveal and pushes it even further. What if the wildfire virus wasn't a medical experiment gone wrong? What if it was a bioweapon that was deliberately created and then accidentally released? Or worse, deliberately released. The Walking Dead always tells its story from a very narrow perspective. We follow Rick and his group through Georgia, Virginia, and eventually the Commonwealth. But we barely ever see what happened to the rest of the world. The franchise has hinted that some places, like the UK, may have survived better than others, but we never get a full picture. Some fans have theorized that the virus was a weapon, developed by a government, possibly French, possibly American, and that it was only supposed to affect a targeted population. But it got out, it went airborne, and it burned through every continent before anyone could contain it. The narrow American perspective of the show could even be deliberate, according to this theory. Maybe the rest of the world did quarantine North America. Maybe there are entire nations out there that survived intact. We just never see them because the show never leaves the characters' limited point of view. It's out there, but ending the series by zooming out to show the rest of the world continuing normally would have been absolutely mind-blowing. Alright, that's 10 theories down. 90 to go. If you're already starting to drift off, that's totally fine. I'll be right here, just let my voice carry you. But if you're still with me, these next ones are about to get really interesting. Because we're about to talk about Rick Grimes himself, not just what happened to him, but who he really is. Theory number 11. Rick Grimes is immortal. And before you laugh, hear this one out, because the evidence is actually kind of unsettling. Over the course of the series, Rick survives a gunshot wound that puts him in a coma for weeks. He survives hand-to-hand combat with dozens of walkers and armed humans. He gets impaled by a piece of rebar at the end of Season 9 and still manages to ride a horse to a bridge and detonate an explosion. An explosion that he also survives. He's rescued by a CRM helicopter and lives for another 6 years as a prisoner of the Civic Republic military. The theory, which was covered extensively by Screen Rant, proposes that the wildfire virus was originally meant to grant immortality. That was the goal of the research, and while it failed for the vast majority of the population, turning them into walkers instead, it may have actually worked correctly on a tiny percentage of people, Rick being one of them. His body heals faster. His injuries, while severe, never manage to kill him. He keeps coming back. Now the comic book version of Rick does die. He gets shot by Sebastian Milton and turns into a walker like everyone else. So in the source material, Rick is definitely mortal. But the TV show has already deviated from the comics in major ways, and Rick's survival track record on screen is honestly ridiculous. Whether it's immortality or just protagonist plot armor, something is keeping Rick Grimes alive that goes beyond normal human resilience. Theory number 12. Rick's coma lasted exactly the right amount of time. This one is more of an observation than a wild theory, but it's still interesting. When Rick wakes up in that hospital, the world has clearly been in chaos for a while. Bodies in the hallways, military equipment abandoned outside, hundreds of corpses wrapped in sheets behind the building. But according to the timeline, the hospital hadn't actually fallen that long before Rick woke up. Days, maybe a week at most. The theory suggests that the hospital was still partially operational, with generators running and at least some staff present, right up until the very end. And there's a fascinating sub-theory attached to this. Morgan's wife Jenny turned into a walker and was seen repeatedly returning to their house, drawn by some residual memory of her former life. Some fans have theorized that Jenny, or another walker with a similar pull, may have been wandering the hospital hallways near Rick's room, inadvertently keeping other walkers away from his door. Walkers are territorial in a basic animal brain kind of way. If one was already occupying that corridor, others might not have bothered entering. It's a stretch, but it's the kind of detail that fans love to pick apart. Theory number 13. I found you. Those 3 words might be the most important in the entire series, and you probably didn't even notice them. In the very first episode, when Morgan finds Rick after the outbreak, Rick's first coherent words are, "I found you." Fast forward to Season 9, when Rick is on that bridge, about to blow the dynamite to stop the Walker Horde. His final words before the explosion are the same. "I found you." Rick's entire story, from the first episode to his last appearance in the main show, is bookended by the same phrase. And some fans believe this isn't just poetic symmetry. They think it's evidence that Rick's arc is a loop, that the show is telling us Rick's journey has a circular structure. He starts by being found, and he ends by finding himself. Or, in a darker reading, he starts by finding a new family, and ends by losing them. The loop. The phrase was also highlighted in an article by Pop Tales, which pointed out that the callback was likely deliberate by the writers. It's the kind of detail that rewards people who watch the show from the very beginning. And if you were paying attention both times, it hits different. Theory number 14. What if Rick's hallucinations weren't hallucinations at all? Throughout the series, Rick sees things that aren't there. He takes phone calls from dead people. He sees Laurie's ghost in the prison corridors. He sees Shane. He sees other people who died. The show presents these as symptoms of grief and psychological deterioration, and that's the obvious reading. But some fans have proposed a weirder idea. What if the wildfire virus, which exists in every living person, creates some kind of low-level neurological connection between the living and the dead? Not full communication, not ghosts in the traditional sense, but traces, echoes. The virus is already in Rick's brain. It's in everyone's brain. When someone dies and reanimates, their brainstem fires back up. What if, in rare cases, the living can pick up on those signals? It would explain why Rick's visions are so specific, why they seem to tell him things he doesn't already know, why the phone calls feel real. It's a theory that the show never directly addresses, but it fits within the established pseudoscience of the wildfire virus. And honestly, it's a lot more interesting than just saying Rick lost his mind from stress. Theory number 15. Rick Grimes was the villain all along. Now this one is uncomfortable, but it's worth sitting with for a minute. When Tyrese is dying in season 5, he hallucinates a voice on the radio. The voice has a British accent, and it's describing terrible things: attacks, cannibalism, communities being wiped out. The voice is actually Andrew Lincoln, the actor who plays Rick, speaking in his real British accent. And the atrocities being described on that broadcast sound a lot like the things Rick's group has actually done. They've killed people, dozens of people. They've wiped out entire communities. They roll into a new place, take it over, and anyone who stands in their way gets eliminated. From the perspective of an outsider, from someone who has never met Rick and only knows about his group through the destruction they leave behind, Rick Grimes and his people are the villains of this story. This theory was discussed by both Games Radar and CBR, and it's one of those ideas that completely reframes the show. We root for Rick because we see the world through his eyes. But if the camera followed someone from Woodbury, or the Saviors, or even the people at Terminus before they became cannibals, Rick's group would look like invaders. Theory number 16. The 3 questions were a test of humanity. Throughout the show, Rick asks potential new members of his group 3 questions. How many walkers have you killed? How many people have you killed? Why? It seems like a straightforward screening process. Find out if someone is dangerous. Find out if they can survive. Find out if they have good judgment. But some fans see a deeper layer. The CRM, the Civic Republic Military, has its own classification system. They sort people into categories, labeling them as either A or B. A subjects are killed and studied. B subjects are recruited. The theory proposes that Rick's 3 questions were unknowingly performing the same function, sorting people into useful and dangerous, recruiters and liabilities. And if you really want to push it, the theory suggests that Rick instinctively developed a human version of the same categorization system that a shadow military organization was using across the entire continent. He was sorting people without even knowing that a much larger sorting machine already existed. Theory number 17. Rick knew about the CRM before the helicopter. This one is more speculative, but it has some interesting supporting details. In the later seasons of the show, Rick encounters evidence of a larger organization operating beyond the communities he knows. The helicopter with the 3-circle logo, the supply drops, Jadis's coded radio communications. The theory suggests that Rick was picking up on these clues earlier than the show lets on, that he was aware something bigger was happening and was trying to figure out who was pulling the strings before he was taken. His behaviour in the episodes leading up to his departure, the way he becomes more secretive, more paranoid, could be read as someone who suspects he's being watched by an organisation he doesn't fully understand. Theory number 18. Why didn't Rick ever go back for Morgan? This is one of those small details that nags at you once you think about it. Rick meets Morgan in the very first episode. Morgan saves his life. They bond. Rick gives Morgan a radio and tells him he'll contact him every day at dawn. And then Rick finds his family, and Morgan basically disappears from the story until season 3. Rick never goes back for him. He never sends anyone to check on him. He just moves on. The theory is that Rick assumed Morgan was dead. In the early days of the outbreak, assuming someone was dead was the safest bet. But when Morgan shows up again in Season 3, clearly having gone through severe trauma and psychological collapse, it raises the question of whether things would have been different if Rick had gone back sooner. Some fans see this as the show's first illustration of its central theme. The dead come back, one way or another, not just as walkers, as people you abandoned, as guilt you buried. Morgan came back, and he was a mirror for everything Rick was afraid of becoming. Theory number 19. Carl's sheriff hat is the most important prop in the entire show. Rick gives Carl his sheriff hat early in the series. It's a symbol of authority, of protection, of a father passing something on to his son. When Carl dies in Season 8, the hat passes to Judith. And suddenly the symbolism deepens. The hat has now travelled through 3 generations. Rick to Carl to Judith. And each person who wears it carries the weight of everything that came before. The theory is that the hat doesn't just represent Rick's authority, it represents inherited trauma. Carl wore it while he grew up in the apocalypse, watching his father kill, watching his mother die, losing his eye, and eventually losing his life. Judith wears it while growing up without her father, without her brother, in a world she never knew before the fall. Each generation wears the hat, and each generation carries the scars of the previous one. It's not a crown, it's a burden, and the show uses it as a visual shorthand for every unspoken pain that gets passed from parent to child. Theory number 20. The Colt Python was never just a gun. Rick's revolver, a Colt Python .357 Magnum, is one of the most iconic weapons in television history. He carries it from the very first episode, and if you pay attention, it appears in nearly every major moral decision Rick makes. He's holding it when he kills Shane. He's holding it during the confrontation with the governor. He has it when he makes life or death choices about who lives and who dies. The theory is that the show uses the python as a visual symbol for Rick's conscience. When the gun is drawn, Rick is weighing something. When it fires, a decision has been made that can't be taken back. It's not just a weapon, it's a character in its own right. And when Rick finally leaves the show, the python leaves with him. It's not given to someone else. It's not left behind. It goes wherever Rick goes. Because Rick's conscience, his sense of right and wrong, his willingness to make the hard call, that's what defines him more than anything else. Now, Rick's story is wild enough on its own, but the people around him, the supporting cast that made this show what it is, they have their own secrets, their own hidden layers, and some of the theories about them are going to surprise you. So let's keep it moving. Theory number 21. Daryl Dixon's scars tell a bigger story than the show ever explicitly states. In Season 3, during the confrontation between Daryl and Merle after the group leaves the prison, Daryl's shirt gets ripped during a scuffle, and underneath we see his back is covered in old scars. Scars from childhood beatings. Their father was abusive. Merle sees them and says, "I didn't know. He left home because of how he was treated." And he tells Daryl that if he'd stayed, he would have killed their father. Now the theory takes this a step further. Everything that makes Daryl an elite survivor, his tracking abilities, his comfort in the woods, his distrust of people, his loyalty once trust is earned, none of that came from the apocalypse. It all came from running away from his father. Daryl was surviving long before the walkers showed up. The apocalypse didn't create Daryl Dixon. It just gave him a world that matched the one he'd already been living in. He was always in survival mode. The walkers just made everyone else catch up to where he already was. Theory number 22. Carol's entire character arc across 11 seasons mirrors the 5 stages of grief. Season 1, denial. She stays with Ed, an abusive husband, pretending everything is fine. Season 2, anger and bargaining as she desperately searches for Sophia and then has to watch her walk out of Herschel's barn as a walker. Seasons 3 through 5, she moves into a sort of controlled rage becoming one of the most dangerous members of the group, while trying to bargain with the world by making the hardest choices so others don't have to. She kills Karen and David at the prison to try to stop the flu outbreak. She kills Lizzie after Lizzie murders her own sister. Each kill is Carol trying to trade her own humanity for the survival of the group. Then in seasons 6 and 7, Depression, Carol completely breaks. She leaves Alexandria. She can't kill anymore. She hides from everyone. And finally, in the later seasons, Acceptance, she finds her way back. She fights again, but differently. She's not the same person she was at any earlier stage. The theory is that the writers intentionally structured Carol's arc around the Kubler-Ross model, making her one of the most psychologically complete characters on the show. Theory number 23. Shane was right about everything. This one stings because nobody wants to admit it. Shane Walsh was Rick's partner, his best friend, and eventually his biggest enemy. Shane was aggressive, paranoid, and morally compromised. He slept with Rick's wife while Rick was in a coma. He wanted to abandon the search for Sophia. He wanted to leave the CDC before it exploded. He wanted to make hard, ugly choices that the rest of the group wasn't ready for. And the theory is simple. Almost every decision that Rick later came to regret was one that Shane had already proposed. Shane wanted to harden the group early. Rick resisted, and people died because of that resistance. Shane wanted to deal with threats preemptively. Rick waited and threats grew. The show positions Shane as the antagonist of season 2, but looking back, he was just ahead of the curve. He was what Rick eventually became by season 5 and beyond. The difference is that Shane got there first and the group punished him for it. Theory number 24. The governor's fish tanks were a psychiatric tell. Philip Blake, the governor of Woodbury, kept a collection of severed Walker heads in aquariums in his private apartment. It's one of the most disturbing images in the entire show, but there's an Easter egg hidden in those tanks that horror fans love. Greg Nicotero, the show's executive producer and special effects makeup supervisor, had a replica made of Ben Gardner's severed head from the 1975 film Jaws. If you've seen Spielberg's movie, you'll remember the jump scare when Hooper finds Gardner's head in the hull of a sunken boat. Nicotero put an identical prop in the governor's tank collection as a tribute to one of the most influential horror films ever made. And later, in season 6, another recognisable head was spotted. This one was modelled after Johnny Depp. Nicotero confirmed it in an interview with Entertainment Weekly, saying he wasn't sure if he'd get in trouble for revealing it. So the governor's trophy wall wasn't just about showing how unhinged he was, it was a love letter to horror cinema. Theory number 25. Glenn's car in season 1 came from Breaking Bad. In the pilot episode of The Walking Dead, Glenn rescues Rick in a red and black Dodge Challenger. It's fast, it's loud, and it's memorable. Now in Breaking Bad, another AMC show, there's a car dealership called Glenn's Car Lot. And on that lot sits a red and black Dodge Challenger that looks identical to the one Glenn redrives. The connection goes even further. In Breaking Bad, Skyler tells Walt to return the car to the dealer. On The Walking Dead, Glenn seemingly picked one up. Same make, same model, same colours. Both AMC shows. And while the showrunners have never issued an official statement confirming a shared universe, they've never denied it either. Add in the blue meth and the Jesse Pinkman references from Merle and Daryl, and you've got a fan theory that refuses to die no matter how many times people try to bury it. Theory number 26. Each season of The Walking Dead represents a different era of human civilization. This one comes from a Reddit post that went viral, and honestly, it's hard to argue against. Season 1, Chaos and Wandering. That's the hunter-gatherer era. Season 2, Herschel's farm. Agriculture, settling in one place, growing food, tending animals. Season 3, The Prison. Incarceration, law, order, and the beginning of institutional power. Season 4, The Flu Outbreak at the Prison. The Black Plague. Disease wiping out populations in enclosed spaces. Season 5 and beyond, Woodbury, Alexandria, the Commonwealth, the rise of city-states, governments, gladiator spectacles, and eventually a functioning bureaucracy. The theory argues that each season of The Walking Dead is intentionally mirroring the stages of human development. We're watching humanity rebuild from scratch, making the same mistakes and repeating the same cycles. Whether the writers intended this or not, the parallels are almost too clean to be coincidental. Theory number 27. Negan's arrival was foreshadowed 2 full seasons before he appeared on screen. After the fall of the prison, in Season 4, the group scatters. Beth Green is alone, wandering through the Georgia woods. She comes across a pile of dead walkers on a road. And lying in the dirt next to the bodies is a baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire. This was spotted by eagle-eyed fans and reported by multiple outlets, including MovieWeb, Collider, and Ranker. Negan doesn't show up until the end of Season 6. His weapon, Lucille, is a baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire. Seeing what appears to be that exact weapon lying near a massacre 2 seasons earlier was either an incredible coincidence or a deliberate tease from the production team. Whether Negan himself was responsible for those dead walkers, or whether it was just a visual hint of what was coming, it sent fans into a frenzy when people started connecting the dots. Theory number 28. Morgan predicted the Whisperers years before they appeared. In Season 5, Morgan is travelling alone and encounters remnants of human activity. During one of his stops, he mentions seeing people wearing dead people's faces. Fans of the comic books immediately knew what he was referring to. The Whisperers, a group of survivors who wear the preserved facial skin of walkers as masks, allowing them to walk among herds undetected. But on the show, the Whisperers didn't appear until Season 9. So Morgan's observation in Season 5 was either a coincidence, a seed planted years in advance by the writers, or evidence that the Whisperers had been operating in the background long before Alpha and Beta made their formal debut. CBR highlighted this detail, and it remains one of the most satisfying pieces of foreshadowing in the series. Theory number 29. Abraham's secret goodbye to Sasha. This one is genuinely heartbreaking. In the Season 7 premiere, Negan plays his twisted game of eeny, meeny, miny, moe to decide which member of Rick's group he's going to kill. He lands on Abraham, and Abraham, knowing he's about to die, looks over at Sasha, and he flashes her a peace sign. It's so fast that you can miss it if you blink, but it's there. It's his way of saying goodbye, saying it's going to be okay, saying I'm at peace with this. He can't speak, he can't run, he can't fight back. All he can do is lift 2 fingers and tell the woman he loves that he's not afraid. Watch Mojo featured this detail, and it remains one of the most emotionally devastating blink and you miss it moments in the entire series. Abraham went out on his terms, and his last act wasn't defiance or rage, it was love. Theory number 30. Eugene created the virus. This is one of the wildest theories out there, and it has never been confirmed, but it refuses to go away. Eugene Porter lied to the entire group for seasons, claiming he was a scientist who knew the cure for the Walker Plague. He said he needed to get to Washington, D.C. People died protecting him on that journey, and when the truth came out that he was lying, the group was devastated. But the theory asks a different question. What if Eugene wasn't lying about everything? What if he actually did have some connection to the original research? His scientific knowledge, while exaggerated, isn't fake. He knows chemistry, he knows biology, he's resourceful in ways that suggest formal training. The theory proposes that Eugene may have been tangentially involved in the early stages of the wildfire research, or at the very least, he had access to information about it, and his lie about knowing the cure was actually a distorted version of a truth he was too afraid to tell. He didn't know how to fix it, but he might have known something about how it started. Theory number 31. Michonne's pet walkers were grief made physical. This one is confirmed by the show. But the deeper theory is what makes it interesting. Michonne's two armless, jawless walkers that she uses for camouflage in Season 3 are her boyfriend Mike and his friend Terry. She mutilated them and kept them on chains. The surface level reading is practical. She needed camouflage. Walkers don't attack you if you're surrounded by other walkers. But the theory goes deeper. Michonne kept Mike and Terry not because she needed them for survival, but because she couldn't let go. They were her grief, walking beside her, literally chained to her. She was dragging her dead relationship, her dead life, her dead world behind her every step she took. And she couldn't move forward, couldn't join a new group, couldn't trust anyone new, until she let them go. When she finally cuts them down, it's not just a tactical decision, it's her choosing to live again. Theory number 32. Beth's death was rewritten during production. Beth Green's death in Season 5 at Grady Memorial Hospital is one of the most sudden and controversial deaths in the series. She stabs Dawn with scissors. Dawn reflexively shoots her in the head. It's over in seconds. And the theory, widely discussed in fan communities, is that this wasn't the original plan. The death is so abrupt, so seemingly random, that many fans believe Beth was supposed to survive Season 5. The evidence is mostly circumstantial, but it includes the fact that Emily Kinney, who plays Beth, appeared genuinely shocked during behind-the-scenes footage, and the cast's reaction at the table read seemed more intense than usual. The theory proposes that a creative decision was made mid-season to kill Beth, and the quickness of her death reflects a last-minute script change rather than a carefully planned narrative arc. Theory number 33. T-Dog's minimal dialogue was intentional commentary. Theodore Douglas, better known as T-Dog, was one of the original group members from Season 1. But for a main cast character, he had almost no dialogue. Entire episodes would go by without T-Dog saying a single word. He'd fight walkers, help the group, and then fade into the background. The theory suggests this wasn't lazy writing. It was commentary. Horror has a long, uncomfortable history of sidelining black characters, often killing them off early or giving them nothing meaningful to do. T-Dog's silence, according to this reading, was the show deliberately acknowledging and repeating that pattern before subverting it with later characters like Michonne, Tyrese, and Sasha, who became central to the story. Whether the writers intended it as meta-commentary or it was genuinely just an oversight, the pattern is hard to ignore. Theory number 34. Dale's watch speech predicted 5 episode titles. This is one of those Easter eggs that makes you respect the writers on a whole different level. In Season 1, Dale gives a speech about a watch, saying it was given so that you may remember time, but that you may forget it, and not spend your life conquering it, but rather trying to live it. The Spoiling Dead fans, a well-known fan community, discovered that the final 5 episodes of Season 5 were titled Remember, Forget, Spend, Try, and Conquer. Those exact words pulled directly from Dale's Season 1 speech in the exact same order. Whether this was planned from the beginning or the season, 5 writers went back to mine earlier dialogue for thematic connections. It's a beautiful piece of structural storytelling that almost nobody caught on first viewing. Theory number 35. Sophia was dead before they ever opened the barn. Herschel Green kept walkers in his barn because he believed they were sick people who could be cured. His wife and stepson were among them. When Shane finally forces the barn open in one of the most iconic scenes in the show, walker after walker stumbles out. And the last one is Sophia, Carol's daughter, the little girl the group spent the entire first half of Season 2 searching for. The theory is that Herschel knew Sophia was in the barn, or at the very least, he strongly suspected it. His resistance to letting the group search the surrounding area, his insistence that they stay away from certain parts of the farm, his evasiveness whenever Rick asked pointed questions. The theory reads all of this not as a man trying to protect his secret walker collection, but as a man carrying the specific guilt of knowing that the child these people were desperately looking for was already dead and shuffling around 20 feet from where they slept every night. Hey, you still awake? Good or not. Either way works for me. But if you're still here, we're about to shift gears. Because the next batch of theories isn't about characters. It's about the people who made the show, the production secrets, the hidden details, the Easter eggs that the crew buried in the backgrounds, the title cards, and the opening credits. And some of these, I promise you, you have never heard before. Theory number 36. The opening credits of The Walking Dead decay over time. And I don't mean the story gets darker. I mean the actual title card physically rots. If you compare the opening credits from Season 1 to Season 10, you can see that the logo, the imagery, and the overall aesthetic get progressively more decomposed, more cracked, more covered in grime and organic matter. It mirrors the walkers themselves, who get more rotten and skeletal as the series progresses. Greg Nicotero, who oversaw the walker makeup throughout the show, made the walkers look more decomposed with each passing season to reflect the passage of time. And the title sequence did the same thing. It's a detail that most people would never notice because nobody rewatches the opening credits that carefully. But it's there. Season after season, the show itself was decaying right alongside the world it was depicting. Theory number 37. The clocks and watches in the show tell you what episode you're watching. This one was confirmed by the production team, and once you know it, you can't unsee it. Greg Nicotero said in an interview that every episode they shoot, they adjust the time on the watches and clocks to whatever episode it is they're shooting. So if you're watching Season 4, Episode 3, and you spot a clock on a wall in the background, the time might read 4:03, or if a character glances at a watch, the hands could be pointing to the episode number. It's a completely hidden detail that has zero impact on the story, but rewards obsessive fans who pause and zoom in on background props. And apparently, the crew did this for the entire run of the show. Theory number 38. Johnny Depp's head appeared as a walker prop in Season 6. This is not a joke. One of these severed walker heads that appears in the show was specifically designed to look like Johnny Depp. Greg Nicotero, the executive producer and makeup effects legend, confirmed this in an interview with Entertainment Weekly. He said one of the other heads, I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble if I say this, was Johnny Depp. The head appeared among other walker remains in Season 6. It wasn't a cameo in the traditional sense. Depp didn't show up on set. The makeup team just sculpted a head to resemble him, stuck it in the scene, and waited for someone to notice. It took a while, but eagle-eyed fans eventually spotted it, and the internet had a field day. Theory number 39. There's a Jaws reference hidden in the Governor's Trophy collection. I mentioned this briefly earlier, but it deserves its own spotlight. Among the Governor's collection of severed walker heads floating in aquariums, one of the heads is a direct replica of Ben Gardner's head from Steven Spielberg's 1975 film Jaws. If you're a horror fan, you know the scene. Hooper is diving near a sunken boat, finds a hole in the hull, and Ben Gardner's severed head comes floating out. Dormy, it's one of the most famous jump scares in movie history. Greg Nicotero had an exact replica of that prop made and placed it in the Governor's apartment. It's a subtle tribute that only horror enthusiasts would catch, but it's the kind of detail that shows how much love the production team had for the genre they were working in. Theory number 40. The Xbox achievement Unlocked sound plays during Rick's first walker kill. This one is hotly debated and has never been officially confirmed, but a significant number of fans swear they can hear it. In the early part of the pilot episode, Rick encounters his first walker and takes it down. Some viewers claim that during or immediately after the kill, you can hear a sound effect that closely resembles the Xbox 360 Achievement Unlocked notification. If it's real, it's one of the most playful Easter eggs in the show. If it's not, it's a case of collective audio pareidolia, which is when your brain hears what it wants to hear. Either way, it's been discussed on forums and fan sites for years, and nobody has been able to definitively prove or disprove it. Theory number 41. Michonne's map points directly to the Telltale Walking Dead video game. In Season 4, there's a scene where Michonne is examining a map of Georgia. Her finger lingers over the town of Macon. Now Macon, Georgia, happens to be the hometown of Lee Everett, the protagonist of Telltale's critically acclaimed Walking Dead video game series. Both the show and the game are set in the same continuity, in the same world, during overlapping time periods. A Michonne pointing at Macon on a map is a nod to the game's storyline, and a confirmation, however subtle, that Lee's story and Rick's story are happening simultaneously in the same corner of Georgia. Watch Mojo highlighted this detail, and for fans who played the Telltale games and watched the show, it was a goosebump moment. Theory number 42. The founding member of Anthrax appears as a walker in Season 5. Scott Ian, the legendary guitarist and co-founder of the thrash metal band Anthrax, made a cameo as a walker in the Season 5 episode titled Remember. He was hidden under a pile of garbage, and when Rick's group passes through, this particular walker grabs at Rick before Carl puts it down with a shot to the head. Scott Ian later appeared on the after show Talking Dead and shared the story behind his appearance. He said he'd first done walker makeup back in 2011 for a webisode, but it took 4 more years before he got a proper part on the show itself. He described it as a make-a-wish kind of day. The man fronted one of the biggest metal bands in history, and the thing he was most excited about was getting fake killed on a zombie show. Theory number 43. There's a Stephen King reference in Season 5. In Season 5, Episode 15, there's a moment where Rick goes outside at night. In the background, you can see a small boat floating on water with a red balloon attached to it. If you've read or watched Stephen King's IT, you know exactly what that's referencing. Georgie Denbrough's paper boat with its red balloon drifting toward the storm drain where Pennywise is waiting. It's a quick, easily missed visual, but fans who spotted it immediately recognized it as a nod to one of the most iconic horror scenes ever written. The Walking Dead production team were clearly fans of the genre, and they peppered these kinds of tributes throughout the series for people paying close enough attention. Theory number 44. Andrew Lincoln narrated Tyrese's death scene in his real British accent. This connects back to theory number 15, but it's worth examining as a standalone production detail. When Tyrese is dying in Season 5, Episode 9, he hallucinates a radio broadcast. The voice on the radio describes horrific events, attacks on communities, acts of violence and cannibalism. And the voice belongs to Andrew Lincoln, the actor who plays Rick Grimes, except he's speaking in his natural English accent. Not Rick's Georgia drawl, his real voice. And the deliberate choice to use Lincoln's actual accent creates a surreal, dreamlike effect. It makes the broadcast feel like it's coming from outside the show itself, like a narrator who exists above the story, commenting on the destruction from a distance. CBR and Ranker both covered this detail, and it remains one of the most haunting creative decisions in the series. Theory number 45. The Umbrella Corporation exists in the Walking Dead universe. Some fans have spotted background signage and logos in certain episodes that they believe resemble the Umbrella Corporation logo from the Resident Evil franchise. Now, this has never been officially confirmed, and it could easily be a coincidence or a fan seeing what they want to see. But the Walking Dead production team was known for inserting references to other horror and sci-fi properties throughout the show. If they were willing to put Johnny Depp's head and a Jaws reference into the governor's apartment, it's not a stretch to imagine they'd sneak a Resident Evil nod into a background shot somewhere. Theory number 46. Rick's final words in his last main show episode were a callback to the pilot. I mentioned this in Theory 13, but here's the production angle. When Rick says, "I found you before blowing up the bridge" in Season 9, it's a deliberate echo of his first words to Morgan in the very first episode. Andrew Lincoln confirmed in interviews that he was aware of the callback and that it was written into the script intentionally. The writers wanted Rick's departure to feel like a completion of a circle, not just an ending. Everything that Rick was when he left the show was connected to who he was when we first met him. The words are the same. The meaning is completely different. And that gap between the two is the entire story of The Walking Dead. Theory number 47. There's a parrot pillow behind the governor that makes him look like a pirate. This one is just pure fun. In season 4, when Tara finds the governor after the fall of Woodbury, he's lying on the ground in a disheveled state. He's still wearing his signature eye patch, and behind him, there's a pillow shaped like a parrot, positioned right on his shoulder, making the governor look exactly like a pirate with a parrot. Fans spotted this almost immediately, and it became one of the most shared Walking Dead screenshots on social media. Whether it was intentional or a hilarious coincidence, the image of the governor as a pirate captain is forever burned into the fandom's collective memory. Theory number 48. Maggie's office at Hilltop contains photos of Glenn and other Lost group members. This is a small detail that most viewers wouldn't notice unless they were actively looking for it. In the Hilltop scenes from the later seasons, when Maggie is shown in her office, the walls contain photos and mementos of people who died. Glenn's presence is there, and so are others who didn't make it. It's never called attention to in dialogue. No character ever points at the wall and says, "I miss them," but it's there, constantly in frame. A silent memorial that the production team maintained as a reminder of the cost of everything these characters went through. Theory number 49. The season 10 episode titled "Look at the Flowers" is a direct callback to one of the show's most devastating moments. In season 4, Carol is forced to make an impossible decision. Lizzie, a deeply disturbed child, kills her own sister Mika because she believes Mika will come back as a walker and they can still be friends. Carol realizes Lizzie is too dangerous to live. She takes Lizzie outside, tells her to look at the flowers, and shoots her. It's one of the most gut-wrenching scenes in the entire series. 6 seasons later, the writers titled an episode, "Look at the Flowers." Just those 4 words. And every single fan who had been watching from the beginning knew exactly what it meant. Joshi, you didn't even need to see the episode. The title alone brought the weight of that entire moment crashing back. Theory number 50. The Japanese writing on Rick's phone translates to something beautiful. In season 10, Michonne discovers evidence that Rick might still be alive. Among the items she finds is an iPhone with a hand-drawn sketch of herself and Judith. Above the portraits, there's Japanese writing. The show never translates it on screen, but showrunner Angela Kang revealed in an interview that the phrase translates to "believe a little longer." Someone, presumably Rick, wrote those words above the faces of the people he loves most. Believe a little longer. That's his message. Not "I'm alive," not "come find me," just believe a little longer. And the fact that it was hidden in a language most English-speaking viewers wouldn't understand makes it feel like a secret between Rick and whoever was meant to find it. It's one of the quietest, most emotional Easter eggs in the entire franchise. Real quick, and I mean real quick, if you're enjoying this and you haven't subscribed, I'd really appreciate it. These long-form videos take a ridiculous amount of time to research and put together. I'm going through episode transcripts, reading fan theories from 12 years ago, cross-referencing timelines. This is not a quick process, and I'm a real person doing all of this. So if you're having a good time, hit that subscribe button. I'll keep making these for as long as you keep watching. Alright, back to it. Let's talk about walker biology. And you know what? Before we move on from the production Easter eggs, there are a few more that I found while digging through these episodes that I think are worth mentioning, because the people who made this show really did put an insane amount of care into the details. For example, the deterioration of the title sequence that we talked about earlier actually goes deeper than just the visual decay. If you pay close attention across the seasons, the imagery changes too. New elements are added, old ones disappear. In season 10, there are shots of Silence the Whisperers written on a wall, and a crow eating something decayed, which many fans interpreted as a callback to the very first episode's pilot, where crows are seen feeding on remains. The opening credits of The Walking Dead were never just an afterthought. They were a living document that changed with the show, and most people fast-forwarded right through them every single week without ever noticing. There's also this detail about the clocks that I want to circle back to, because it's genuinely one of the coolest production secrets I've ever come across. Greg Nicotero and the crew didn't just set clocks to the episode number in obvious ways. Sometimes the clocks are barely visible. They're on a wall in the background of a scene that lasts 3 seconds. They're on a wristwatch that a character glances at during a conversation about something completely unrelated. The information is there, but you'd need to pause the frame and zoom in to catch it. It's a love letter to the kind of viewer who watches each episode multiple times with a magnifying glass. And the fact that they did this for every single episode, across 11 seasons, is honestly kind of staggering when you think about the logistics of it. Another thing I want to touch on before we leave this section is the relationship between The Walking Dead and George Romero. The show owes an enormous debt to Romero's zombie films, particularly Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead. And the production team acknowledged this in multiple subtle ways throughout the series. The walkers themselves are designed in a style that pays homage to Romero's practical effects work. The social commentary embedded in the show, the way it uses zombies as a lens to examine human behaviour, class, race and power, that's pure Romero DNA. And there are moments throughout the series where specific shots, specific compositions, seem to directly reference Romero's films. It's never called out. There's no character who turns to camera and says this is a Romero reference, but horror fans know. They see it, and it's one of the reasons the show felt like it belonged to the genre community from the very beginning. Now let me go deeper on a couple of theories from earlier that I think deserve more space. The Shane theory, Theory 23, is one that I genuinely think about more than any other. Because the more you rewatch the early seasons, the more you realise that Shane wasn't wrong about the practical realities of survival. He was just wrong about how to handle relationships. Shane's survival instincts were razor sharp. He wanted to leave the CDC when everyone else wanted to stay. If they'd listened, they wouldn't have nearly died in the explosion. Now, he wanted to stop searching for Sophia because, in his assessment, the odds of finding her alive were almost zero. He was right. She was already dead in Herschel's barn. He wanted to open the barn immediately because he sensed something was wrong. He was right about that too. The uncomfortable truth about Shane is that his instincts saved lives and his personality destroyed trust. He could read the tactical situation perfectly, but couldn't navigate the emotional landscape of the group. And Rick, who had the emotional intelligence Shane lacked, spent the next 9 seasons slowly arriving at every tactical conclusion Shane had reached in season 2. The difference is that Rick had the group's trust, so when he made those same hard calls, people followed him. Shane made the same calls, and people feared him. Same decisions, different delivery, wildly different outcomes. The Michonne Pet Walker theory, number 31, also has a layer that I didn't fully explore. When Michonne eventually joins Rick's group, she's been travelling with those walkers for months, maybe longer. And the show never explicitly states this, but the implication is that during that time Michonne didn't speak to anyone. She was completely alone with her grief, chained to the rotting remains of the people she loved, walking through a dead world without saying a word. Imagine that. Months of silence, months of nothing but her own thoughts and the moaning of the dead. By the time she meets Andrea and they find their way to Woodbury, Michonne has been in a kind of self-imposed solitary confinement, and the trust issues she displays, the reluctance to open up, the guardedness. All of it makes perfect sense when you realise what she's been through. She didn't just lose people, she carried them with her, literally. And letting go of those walkers wasn't just a tactical choice, it was the first step back toward being a human being who could connect with other human beings again. I also want to come back to the hearing loss theory, number 54, because it has an interesting secondary implication. If the characters are losing their hearing over the course of the show, it doesn't just explain why walkers sneak up on them. it also explains the miscommunications. The arguments that escalate because someone didn't hear what was said. The moments where a warning is shouted but not heeded. Throughout the series, characters yell at each other across distances, and sometimes the message doesn't get through. We as viewers hear everything because we have the audio track, but the characters, living in a world of constant gunfire and no audiological care, are gradually losing the ability to hear each other. It adds a layer of tragedy to every failed communication in the show. They're not just bad at talking to each other, they literally can't hear each other anymore. There's also the matter of Judith and what she represents for the franchise going forward. In the final episodes of the main show, Judith is the one carrying Rick's legacy. She wears his hat, she carries his gun, she has Michonne's sword training and Carol's survival instincts and Negan's complicated moral compass. Judith is a composite of every person who raised her, and the theory that babies born after the outbreak might have natural immunity takes on extra weight when you apply it to her. If Judith is immune to the virus, if she can't turn, then she represents something genuinely new. Not just a next generation, but a different kind of human entirely. One who was born into this world, not thrust into it. One who doesn't carry the trauma of remembering what came before, because for her, this is all there's ever been. Judith doesn't grieve the old world, she just lives in this one. And that might be the franchise's most hopeful statement about the future. I want to expand on the communities of civilization theory too, because there's one community that fans don't talk about enough in this context. Oceanside, the women-only community that was created after the Saviors killed all their men. Oceanside is fascinating because it represents a specific response to trauma. Instead of rebuilding a traditional power structure, the women of Oceanside created something different. Smaller, quieter, hidden. They chose invisibility as a survival strategy. They opted out of the power games that destroyed them. And while the show doesn't spend a ton of time at Oceanside, their existence proves that there are alternatives to the models we see everywhere else. Not every community has to be a kingdom, or a military, or a fiefdom. Some can just be people who want to be left alone. In the civilization analogy, Oceanside might represent the communities that history forgets. The ones that don't build empires or fight wars. The ones that just exist quietly, sustainably, out of the spotlight. And maybe that's the smartest response of all. One more thing about the variant walkers that I think deserves attention. The existence of burners and runners in France raises a terrifying possibility that the franchise hasn't fully explored. If the virus can mutate in different environments to produce different types of walkers, what's stopping it from mutating further? What's the ceiling? We've seen slow walkers, we've seen fast walkers, we've seen walkers with acidic blood. What comes next? Walkers that can swim? Walkers that can climb? Walkers that retain enough brain function to use tools? The franchise has been slowly escalating the threat level of the walkers themselves, and the variant theory suggests there's no natural limit to how dangerous they can become. The wildfire virus is evolving, and evolution doesn't stop at a convenient plateau, it keeps going. Which means the walkers of Season 1, the slow, shuffling, easily avoided threats that the characters almost got comfortable with, might look quaint compared to what the virus produces in another decade. The apocalypse isn't winding down, it might just be getting started, and circling all the way back to the very first theory, the Rick Grimes coma theory. There's one detail that makes it haunt people even after it's been debunked. When Rick wakes up in the hospital and stumbles outside, the first thing he sees is a military cordon that has been completely abandoned. Helicopters, sandbags, vehicles, and hundreds of dead bodies wrapped in sheets, laid out in rows. Now, if Rick really had been in a coma for weeks while all of this happened, the logistics don't quite work. The bodies are arranged too neatly. The equipment is positioned too precisely. It looks like someone organised all of this and then walked away. The debunked theory gets a lot of traction because the visual storytelling of that scene feels dreamlike. It feels like something a person would hallucinate. And even though Kirkman says the events are real, the show shot that first episode in a way that deliberately leaves room for doubt. The camera work is hazy, the lighting is surreal. Rick's confusion isn't just a character choice, it's a directing choice. Frank Darabont, who directed the pilot, created an opening that looks and feels like a dream on purpose. Not because it is one, but because Rick and the audience needed to feel the unreality of it. The world ended while you were asleep, and waking up into it should feel impossible, because in many ways it is. Theory number 51. Walkers are evolving. And I'm not being dramatic, the evidence is in the show itself. In Daryl Dixon, which takes us to France for the first time in the franchise, we see walkers that are fundamentally different from anything in the original series. There are burners, walkers whose blood is acidic and who can set things on fire when they bleed. There are faster walkers, more coordinated walkers, walkers that seem to operate with a level of aggression that the slow shuffling American walkers never displayed. Now the theory is that the wildfire virus mutates. Just like any real virus, it changes over time. Different environmental conditions, different host populations, and different exposure to whatever experiments the French lab was running have produced variant strains. The main show takes place in the American South, where one strain dominates. France, where the virus originated, is home to more aggressive mutations. And if the virus continues to evolve, the walkers of the future could be even more dangerous than the ones we've already seen, which is a terrifying thought for a franchise that's still going. Theory number 52. Decomposition should have ended the apocalypse. This is one of those theories that sounds like a plot hole, but might actually be the show's long-term endgame. Greg Nicotero deliberately made the walkers look more decomposed with each passing season. Their flesh rots, their muscles deteriorate, their bones become more brittle and exposed. If the show is following real-world biology even loosely, then walkers should have a shelf life. Tendons snap, joints seize. A muscle tissue decomposes to the point where movement becomes impossible. One fan theory, covered by Mental Floss, suggests that the most realistic outcome of the Walking Dead apocalypse is that humanity just needs to wait. Given enough time, every existing walker will decompose beyond the point of mobility. They'll just collapse. The threat literally rots away. Of course, new walkers are still being created every time someone dies, but the math eventually favours the living. If you can outlast the current horde and keep your community stable, the zombie problem solves itself over the course of 10 to 20 years. Theory number 53. Babies born after the outbreak might be immune. Every living person carries the wildfire virus. Dr. Jenner confirmed that in Season 1 at the CDC. But the virus entered the human population through airborne transmission during a specific window of time. The theory proposes that children conceived and born after the outbreak, children who were exposed to the virus from conception rather than contracting it as adults, might have a different relationship with the pathogen. Their immune systems developed alongside the virus. They've never known a world without it. Judith Grimes, R.J., Herschel Ree, all of these next-generation children could potentially have a natural resistance or even immunity to the reanimation effect. The show never confirms this, but it's worth noting that we never see a child born post-outbreak turn into a walker. Not once. It could just be that the show avoids depicting child walkers for obvious reasons. But fans have noticed the absence, and the theory persists. Theory number 54. The hearing loss theory. This is one of those simple ideas that completely changes how you watch the show. A Reddit user proposed that the reason walkers are constantly sneaking up on the characters, appearing out of nowhere with no warning, is because the characters are all partially deaf. Think about it. These people fire guns constantly. Rifles, shotguns, handguns, automatic weapons, in enclosed spaces, in open fields, sometimes right next to each other's heads, and they never wear hearing protection. Not once. In real life, repeated exposure to gunfire without ear protection causes significant hearing loss. The characters in The Walking Dead have been firing weapons for years. By season 5 or 6, most of them would have substantial hearing damage. Walkers aren't silent. They moan, they shuffle. They drag things. But if your hearing is compromised, you might not catch those sounds until a walker is right behind you. It's a brilliantly simple explanation for one of the show's most persistent plot points. Theory number 55. Walkers have residual memory. In the very first episode, Morgan's wife Jenny has turned into a walker, but she keeps returning to their house. She walks up to the front door. She turns the doorknob. She doesn't just wander past, she specifically returns to the place she lived. Morgan watches this from inside, heartbroken, unable to shoot her. The show later explains that walkers are driven purely by brainstem function. No higher cognition, no memory, just hunger and basic motor impulses. But Jenny's behaviour contradicts that. She remembers the house, or at least something in her reanimated brain is drawn to it. The theory is that fragments of memory persist after reanimation. Not enough for consciousness, not enough for recognition, but enough for a walker to drift toward places and things that mattered to them in life. It's a small detail, but it adds an entire layer of tragedy to the walkers. They're not just monsters. They're echoes of people who loved and lived and had homes they wanted to return to. Theory number 56. The virus activates faster in people who die violently. This one is actually confirmed lore, not just a theory. According to the Walking Dead wiki, deceased hosts that died with violent thoughts and adrenaline have markedly shorter resurrection times compared to those who died in a weaker state. So if you die in a fight, in terror, in rage, your body reanimates faster. And if you die peacefully, in your sleep from old age, it takes longer. The theory extends this into darker territory. If the virus feeds on adrenaline and fear, then the apocalypse itself is a self-reinforcing cycle. The more scared people are, the faster they turn. The faster they turn, the more scared everyone else becomes. Fear breeds walkers. Walkers breed fear. The virus isn't just killing people, it's harvesting their terror. Theory number 57. Alicia Clark beat the wildfire virus. In Fear the Walking Dead, Alicia Clark gets bitten by a walker on the arm. She amputates, which is standard procedure in the Walking Dead universe for preventing the spread. But the infection had already started moving through her system. She should have died within 48 hours, like every other person who's been bitten, but she didn't. She held on for 4 months, and then she recovered. The theory, supported by in-show dialogue from Nurse June Dory, is that Alicia had been exposed to a radioactive walker about a year earlier during a nuclear meltdown event. The radiation weakened the secondary infection enough for her natural immune system to fight it off. If this theory is correct, it means there's a pathway to surviving a walker bite. It's not a cure, but it's the closest thing to one that anyone in the franchise has ever found. And it happened almost by accident. Theory number 58. Whisperer masks could breed new variants. The Whisperers wear the preserved facial skin of walkers as masks. They live among herds. They're in constant, prolonged contact with walker tissue, walker blood, and active virus material. Pusha, the theory proposes that this extended exposure could act as a breeding ground for new strains of the virus. Just like how working closely with livestock can lead to zoonotic mutations in the real world, Whisperers living inside walker skin could be incubating variant walkers without even knowing it. It's never addressed on screen, but from a virology standpoint, the Whisperers are basically running a mutation lab on their faces. Theory number 59. Cold weather is the great equalizer. In the later seasons of the main show, and in Daryl Dixon, which is set in France, we see walkers behaving differently in cold weather. They slow down, they freeze. Their decomposing flesh becomes brittle in the cold. The theory extends this into a broader claim about the global apocalypse. Northern regions, places with harsh winters, long freezes, Plough and heavy snow would have a significant advantage over the southern areas where most of the show takes place. Walkers in Minnesota or Alaska or Scandinavia would be immobilized for months at a time during winter. Communities in those areas could farm, build, and expand during the cold months with minimal walker threat. The franchise has teased that the UK survived better than many other places, and the island geography plus temperate but cold climate could be a major factor. Theory number 60. Animals can't turn, only humans reanimate after death. Dogs, cats, horses, deer, none of them become walkers. The virus exclusively targets humans. And the theory asks why. If the wildfire virus is airborne and universal, why doesn't it affect other mammals? The answer, according to this theory, is that the virus was engineered specifically for human DNA. It was designed to interact with human brain chemistry, human neural pathways, human cellular structure. Animals are immune because they were never the target. This supports the lab origin theory and the bioweapon theory simultaneously. A naturally occurring pathogen wouldn't be so species-specific, but a designed one would. Whatever the French researchers created, they built it for us. Only us. 60 theories down, 40 to go. If you're still awake, you are a champion. If you drifted off somewhere around theory 45, that's completely fine. The video will be here when you wake up. But for those of you still hanging in there, we're shifting into the communities, the places these characters called home, and the theories about what those places really represent. Isha theory number 61. Each community in the show represents a stage of human civilization. I touched on this earlier with theory 26, but now let's go deeper. The progression isn't just thematic, it's sequential. The group starts as nomads, wandering, scavenging, sleeping wherever they can find shelter. That's prehistoric humanity. Then they reach Herschel's farm, which represents the agricultural revolution. They settle. They grow food. They tend livestock. They have a fixed home for the first time. Then the prison. Now we're in the institutional era. Walls, hierarchy, division of labour, and the beginning of organised governance. The governor's Woodbury is the Roman Empire, complete with gladiator-style entertainment and a charismatic dictator. The flue at the prison mirrors the Black Death. Alexandria represents the Renaissance, a return to art, culture, and the belief that life can be about more than just survival. And the Commonwealth is modern government. Bureaucracy, class stratification, policing, and all the corruption that comes with centralised power. It's not a perfect one-to-one mapping, but it's close enough that multiple fan communities have independently arrived at the same conclusion. Theory number 62. The Commonwealth was always the end game. From the very first episode, The Walking Dead was telling a story about whether humanity could rebuild. Not just survive, rebuild, create something that resembles civilization. And the Commonwealth, with its 50,000 citizens, its class system, its military, its ice cream shops, and Halloween carnivals, is the answer. Humanity can rebuild. But it rebuilds with all the same flaws it had before. The theory suggests that the entire 11-season arc of the show was always pointed toward this conclusion. Not toward Rick finding safety, not toward defeating one final villain, but toward proving that humans will recreate the exact same society that failed them, just in a new location. The Commonwealth isn't a happy ending. It's a realistic one. Theory number 63. Terminus was more than desperate survivors. The people of Terminus didn't stumble into cannibalism out of necessity. The signs they posted throughout Georgia, reading "Those who arrive survive," were deliberate traps. They lured people in. They disarmed them. They slaughtered them. And they ate them. The theory goes beyond the surface horror and looks at the writing on the walls of Terminus. Never again. Never trust. We first, always. These aren't the words of desperate people making hard choices. These are the words of a cult, an ideology. Terminus made a philosophical choice to stop seeing other humans as people and to start seeing them as resources. And the theory is that this transformation didn't happen overnight. It was a gradual process, a slide from fear to brutality to a fully formed belief system that cannibalism was not just acceptable, but righteous. Theory number 64. Woodbury's gladiator fights are a mirror of ancient Rome's collapse. The governor didn't just rule Woodbury, he entertained it. The fighting pits where Merle and others battled walkers and each other weren't just violence for its own sake. They were a control mechanism. Bread and circuses. Give the people a spectacle, and they won't question the leader. The theory draws a direct line between Woodbury's arena and the Roman Colosseum. Both were used by leaders who understood that distracted populations are obedient populations. And just like Rome, Woodbury fell not because of an external enemy, but because the leader's own ego and cruelty made the community unsustainable. Theory number 65. The CRM's A and B classification system was a sorting machine for all of humanity. Jadis, also known as Anne, was responsible for bringing people to the CRM. She classified them as either A or B, as subjects were taken to CRM labs, studied, experimented on, and killed. B subjects were recruited into the civilian population. When Jadis captured Rick, she told the CRM he was a B, but she later admitted that Rick was actually an A. She lied to save his life. If she had told the truth, Rick would have been dissected in a lab. The theory proposes that the CRM had been running this sorting operation for years, possibly since the early days of the outbreak. Operatives embedded in communities across the country were identifying valuable individuals, classifying them, and either recruiting or eliminating them. It's a shadow government operating behind the scenes of the entire series. And most of the characters never even knew it existed. We're getting into the back half now, and I've saved some of the best theories for this stretch. The ones that will make you look at the show completely differently. The foreshadowing, the prophecy, the details that prove the writers were playing a much longer game than anyone realised. And actually, before we get into the foreshadowing theories, I want to sit with the CRM for one more minute, because Theory 65, the A and B classification system, has implications that the show barely scratched the surface of. Think about how many communities existed across the Walking Dead universe that we never saw. The CRM operated across multiple states. They had outposts, they had operatives, they had a network that dwarfed anything Rick's group ever encountered. And in every one of those communities, someone was watching. Someone was cataloguing, deciding who was useful and who was expendable. The sheer scale of that operation means that the A and B sorting wasn't limited to the handful of characters we know about. Thousands of people, maybe tens of thousands, were classified without their knowledge. Farmers, fighters, doctors, engineers, every person the CRM encountered was evaluated. Iswaim and the ones labelled A, the ones deemed too valuable to be left alone but too dangerous to recruit, were taken, studied, and eliminated. The CRM wasn't just a government. It was a machine built to harvest human potential and discard whatever it couldn't use. And the scariest part is that it worked. For years it worked. Nobody stopped them because nobody knew they existed. They operated in the blind spots of a world that was too busy surviving to notice. And there's one more community theory that I want to add before we move on, and it ties into something the show does really well that I think gets overlooked. The hilltop, under Maggie's leadership, becomes the franchise's strongest argument for agriculture as resistance. In a world dominated by warlords and military organisations, Maggie's response is to grow food. That sounds simple. Almost boring compared to the Saviour's arsenal or the CRM's helicopters. But food is power. Food is the reason people show up. Food is why the Saviours needed Hilltop in the first place. Without Hilltop's crops and livestock, Negan's entire economy collapses. Maggie understood something that the show's bigger villains never quite grasped. You don't win by having the most guns. You win by being the person everyone needs. And that's a theory about leadership that extends way beyond The Walking Dead. The communities that survive in this franchise aren't the ones with the most firepower. They're the ones that produce something other people can't live without. I also think it's worth noting how the show handles religion across its run, because it connects to several theories we've already discussed. Gabriel's Bible verses, Theory 76, are just one piece of a larger pattern. The Walking Dead is deeply interested in what happens to faith when the world ends. Gabriel starts as a coward, hiding in his church while his congregation dies outside. He literally locks the doors and lets people be eaten, and then he spends the rest of the series trying to atone for that. His journey from cowardice to genuine bravery, from hollow faith to tested belief, is one of the most underrated character arcs in the show. And the fact that his Bible verses all deal with resurrection and the dead returning to life isn't just a cute Easter egg. It's the show asking a theological question. If the dead literally walk the earth, what does that mean for everything religion teaches about death, judgment, and the afterlife? Gabriel never answers that question directly. But the fact that he keeps his collar on, keeps praying, keeps believing, even after everything he's seen, is its own kind of answer. All right, now let's get into the foreshadowing, because this next batch of theories is going to make you want to rewatch the entire series from the beginning. Theory number 66. Hilltop was named prophetically. In the comics, Hilltop Colony is the settlement where the new civilization truly begins to take root. Maggie becomes its leader and transforms it into a functioning agricultural community. The theory is that the name Hilltop isn't just geographic, it's symbolic. Humanity has been at the bottom, literally underground, hiding in prisons, basements, and tunnels. And Hilltop is where they start climbing. It sits on elevated ground, which gives it a strategic advantage. But more importantly, it represents the idea that things can go up, that the trajectory of human civilization in the Walking Dead universe isn't just a flat line of misery, it's a slow, painful ascent. And Hilltop is the first step on that climb. Theory number 67. The walls of the Alexandria safe zone were too good to be a coincidence. When Rick's group first arrives at Alexandria in Season 5, they're stunned. The community has walls, running water, electricity, solar panels. It looks like suburbia survived the apocalypse untouched. And that raises a question. How? The theory proposes that Alexandria wasn't just a lucky neighborhood that happened to have good defenses. It was a pre-planned government contingency shelter, a community designed before the outbreak to serve as a fallback position for key civilian populations. The solar infrastructure, the wall construction, the layout of the community, all of it seems too deliberate to be the work of regular suburban residents scrambling during a crisis. Someone planned Alexandria, and whoever that someone was, they knew what was coming. Theory number 68. Ezekiel's Renaissance fair persona was deliberate therapy. King Ezekiel, leader of the kingdom, speaks in a theatrical, almost Shakespearean manner. He has a pet tiger named Shiva. He calls himself a king. His community looks like a medieval fantasy. And the theory is that none of this is delusion. It's intentional. Ezekiel was a zookeeper before the apocalypse. He's fully aware that he's performing. He tells Carol as much in one of the show's most honest moments. He's not crazy. He's creating a story that his people can believe in. Because in a world where reality is nothing but death and horror, a story, even an obviously false one, gives people a reason to wake up in the morning. Ezekiel's kingship is community therapy on a massive scale. And the fact that it works, that the kingdom thrives under his leadership, is the show's argument that humans need mythology to survive. Theory number 69. The saviors were feudalism reborn. Negan's system wasn't random cruelty. It was a structured economy based on tribute. Communities under savior control were required to produce goods, food, weapons, and supplies, and deliver half of everything to the sanctuary. In exchange, the saviors provided quote-unquote protection. This is textbook feudalism. The saviors are the lords, the communities are the serfs. And just like in medieval Europe, the system technically works. Yeah, people survive, order is maintained, but it comes at the cost of freedom, dignity, and any sense of self-determination. The theory suggests the show is making a deliberate argument. Without rule of law, without functioning institutions, humanity doesn't invent something new. It defaults to the oldest power structure in human history. A strong leader at the top, everyone else serving at his pleasure, and violence as the primary tool of governance. Theory number 70. Grady Memorial Hospital was a miniature police state. In Season 5, Beth and Carol end up at Grady Memorial Hospital in Atlanta. The hospital is run by a group of police officers led by Dawn Lerner, who maintains order through a system of coerced labor. If someone is rescued and treated at the hospital, they owe a debt. And that debt is paid through work, cleaning, cooking, and in some cases things far worse. The officers live well. Everyone else serves. The theory reads Grady Memorial as the show's commentary on how institutions become corrupt when there's no accountability. Dawn genuinely believes she's doing the right thing. She thinks she's maintaining civilization, but without any external check on her power, the hospital has become a prison, and the people inside it are too afraid to leave. It's a microcosm of how authoritarianism takes root, not through mustache-twirling villainy, but through a leader who's convinced herself that total control is the same as safety. Theory number 71. Dale's season. One watch speech predicted 5 consecutive episode titles 4 seasons later. I've mentioned this one in pieces, but here it is in full. In Season 1, Dale Horvath gives a speech about a pocket watch. He says the watch was given so that you may remember time, but that you may forget it, and not spend your life conquering it, but trying to live it. The final 5 episodes of Season 5 are titled Remember, Forget, Spend, Try, and Conquer, in that exact order, taken directly from Dale's speech, word for word. The Spoiling Dead fans community first identified this pattern, and it was later covered by CBR. Whether the Season 5 writers planned this from the beginning or went back to Season 1 and mined Dale's dialogue for thematic titles, the result is the same. A beautiful piece of structural storytelling that ties the show's ending arc directly to its beginning. Theory number 72. Daryl's Cherokee Rose callback in Season 6. Back in Season 2, when Carol is grieving the loss of Sophia, Daryl brings her a Cherokee Rose. He tells her the story behind the flower, how it grew along the Trail of Tears as a symbol of the mother's grief for their lost children. It's one of the most tender moments in the show. Fast forward to Season 6. Daryl is walking through a glade of dead walkers, and growing from the back of one of the walkers, pushing through the rotting flesh, is a flower. A Cherokee Rose, the same flower Daryl gave Carol, growing from death. It's a visual that doesn't require any dialogue to understand. Life persists, even in the worst places, even growing out of death itself. The show never comments on it. No character points at it, but fans noticed, and the symbolism hit hard. Theory number 73. Lizzie's behaviour at the prison foreshadowed everything. Before Lizzie killed her sister Mika, there were warning signs everywhere. She was feeding rats to walkers through the prison fence. She was naming them. She was playing with them. She genuinely believed the walkers were just different, not dead. When the group found the mutilated rats at the fence, they suspected an unknown threat, but it was Lizzie the whole time. The theory isn't just that Lizzie was disturbed, it's that the show was teaching its audience a lesson about willful blindness. The signs were there, everyone saw them. Nobody acted, and a child died because of it. Collider highlighted this as one of the show's most effective pieces of foreshadowing, and it remains a textbook example of how to set up a devastating payoff across multiple episodes. Theory number 74. Carl losing his eye foreshadowed his death. In Season 6, Carl is shot through the eye by Ron Anderson. He survives, but he loses the eye permanently. The theory proposes that this wasn't just a traumatic event, it was symbolic. Carl was now seeing the world with half his vision. He was, symbolically, half dead. And the show was telling us, years before it happened, that Carl's time was limited. He was already partially gone. When Carl is eventually bitten and dies in Season 8, the theory reads it as the completion of a process that started with that bullet. He'd been leaving the story gradually, one piece at a time. Theory number 75. The governor's eye patch was a pirate warning. Single-eyed villains in fiction are a specific archetype. They signal dishonesty, hidden knowledge, and betrayal. The governor loses his eye and gains an eye patch. And from that moment on, he is visually coded as untrustworthy. The theory suggests this was a deliberate choice by the costume and character design team. Before the governor ever does anything truly villainous on screen, the patch tells you who he is. It's a visual warning that the audience processes subconsciously. You know he's the bad guy the moment you see his face. And the pirate comparison isn't accidental. The governor raids communities, takes their resources, and rules through force. He's a pirate in everything but name. Theory number 76. Gabriel's Bible verses all dealt with death and resurrection. Father Gabriel Stokes is a priest, so it makes sense that biblical references surround his character. But fans on Reddit took the time to track every Bible verse that appears on screen in connection with Gabriel, and they found a pattern. In every single verse relates to the same themes. Rising from the dead, returning to life, being unable to pass on, living among the dead. The books range from Ezekiel in the Old Testament to Revelation, the final book. Each one connects to the central reality of the Walking Dead universe. Death is not the end. People come back. And a man of God has to figure out what that means for his faith. It's a theological crisis hidden in plain sight across multiple seasons. Theory number 77. Negan's introduction was foreshadowed by the show's willingness to fake deaths. The Season 6 cliffhanger, where Negan selects his victim, but the camera doesn't show who it is, was one of the most controversial decisions in the show's history. But some fans theorized that the showrunners were testing the audience with an earlier fake-out. In Glenn's death under the dumpster in Season 6, where he appeared to die but was actually hidden beneath another body, conditioned viewers to doubt what they saw. The theory proposes that this was deliberate. By faking Glenn's death and then revealing he was alive, the show trained its audience to question whether characters were really gone. So when the Season 6 finale ended without showing who Negan killed, fans assumed it was another fake-out. It wasn't, and that made the Season 7 premiere, when Abraham and Glenn actually died, hit even harder. The show used our own hope against us. Theory number 78. Just survive. Somehow was Enid's entire character in 3 words. The letters JSS appear repeatedly throughout Season 5 and beyond. Enid carves them into surfaces, writes them in the dirt, repeats them like a mantra. It could just survive somehow. It's her personal philosophy, born from watching her parents get eaten by walkers and then wandering alone for months. The theory is that JSS doesn't just describe Enid's survival strategy, it describes the show's thesis. Every character in The Walking Dead is just surviving somehow. They're not thriving. They're not winning. They're holding on by their fingernails and calling it living. Enid's mantra is universal, and the fact that she's the one who voices it, a teenager with no power, no weapons, and no community, makes it even more resonant. Theory number 79. Morgan's pacifism was the show's experiment with morality. Morgan goes through one of the most extreme character arcs in the series. He starts as a caring father. He becomes a psychotic killer. Then he meets Eastman, learns Aikido and philosophy. He even becomes a committed pacifist who believes all life is precious. And the show proceeds to put that belief through a meat grinder. Every time Morgan refuses to kill, Someone else gets hurt or dies because of it. The theory is that Morgan was the writer's test case. Can morality survive the apocalypse? Can a person hold on to principles when the world is trying to strip them away? And the answer the show arrives at is complicated. Morgan's morality survives, but it costs him his sanity, his relationships, and his peace. Being good in a bad world isn't free. It's the most expensive thing there is. Theory number 80. Rick killing Shane was the original sin of the entire series. In Season 2, Rick kills his best friend Shane. It's arguably the most important single moment in the show. And the theory proposes that every moral decision Rick makes after that point is filtered through the guilt and trauma of that kill. When Rick faces the governor, he's thinking about Shane. When he decides whether to trust Negan's surrender, he's remembering what happened the last time he let someone close get too dangerous. Shane's death created a template in Rick's mind. If someone threatens the group, eliminate them. Don't wait. Don't negotiate. Kill them before they kill you. That template served Rick well for years, but it also led him to make choices that were, in hindsight, unnecessary. Shane was Rick's first kill of a living person he loved, and that wound never fully healed. It just changed shape over and over again, across 11 seasons. Alright, 20 more theories. We are in the home stretch now. If you've been here since the beginning and you're still awake, I genuinely appreciate you. Sincerely. But also, you should probably close your eyes soon. You've been awake for a while. Let your brain absorb all of this in your sleep. But if you're not ready to let go just yet, these final theories are some of the most interesting ones I've saved. We're going into the spin-offs, the wildest fan theories, and the 3 that I think perfectly wrap up everything The Walking Dead was trying to say. Theory number 81. Daryl ending up in France is not a coincidence. Of all the places in the world Daryl Dixon could have washed up, he lands in France, the country where the wildfire virus originated, the country where the biomedical lab that started the apocalypse once operated, the country where variant walkers are more aggressive and dangerous than anything the American survivors ever faced. And some fans think this is the franchise circling back to the beginning. The Walking Dead started with a mystery. Where did the virus come from? And now, through Daryl Dixon, the show is bringing its most popular character to the source. The theory proposes that Daryl's journey through France isn't just a survival story, it's a pilgrimage to ground zero. And somewhere in his path through this country, whether he knows it or not, the answers to the franchise's oldest question might be waiting. Theory number 82. Laurent is the key to a cure. In Daryl Dixon, we meet Laurent, a young boy born under extraordinary circumstances. His mother was bitten by a walker while pregnant, and she died during childbirth. But Laurent survived, healthy, uninfected. The people who found him believe he's special. Some think he might be miraculous. The theory builds on the real virology implications. If Laurent's mother was actively fighting the wildfire virus while carrying him, Laurent's immune system may have developed unique antibodies in utero. He wasn't just exposed to the virus, he was forged in it. His body may carry the blueprint for a cure, or at the very least, a natural resistance that no one else in the franchise has. Daryl's mission to protect Laurent isn't just about keeping a kid alive, it might be about protecting the only person on Earth whose blood could end the apocalypse. Theory number 83. Dead City's Negan and Maggie dynamic is the same story as Rick and Shane. Think about the relationship structures. Rick and Shane were friends, turned enemies, turned reluctant allies. Shane killed to protect what he thought was his family. Rick killed Shane when he became too dangerous. And that tension defined the show's early seasons. Now look at Dead City. Negan murdered Maggie's husband. Maggie has every reason to want Negan dead. But circumstances force them to work together. They need each other. They hate each other. And somewhere underneath all of it, there's a grudging respect that neither of them will ever admit to. The theory is that the franchise keeps retelling the same core story. Two people who should be enemies, forced into alliance by a world that won't let them have the luxury of grudges. Rick and Shane, Maggie and Negan. It's the same song in a different key. Theory number 84. Nudge the Ones Who Live suggests the CRM might have been right all along. This is a deeply uncomfortable theory, and the show doesn't shy away from the discomfort. The Civic Republic military, the CRM, committed atrocities. They destroyed entire communities. They kidnapped people. They ran experiments. They were, by any moral standard, villains. But their goal was survival. Organised, large-scale, species-level survival. They believed that without drastic action, humanity would eventually go extinct. And the theory asks a painful question. What if they were right? Not about the methods were evil, but about the math. If the virus continues to mutate, if variant walkers become more dangerous, if communities keep fighting each other instead of uniting, the CRM's prediction might come true. And Rick, by dismantling them, Yitzhak may have removed the one organisation that was thinking about humanity's future on a scale larger than the next supply run. The Ones Who Live doesn't answer this question definitively, but it plants the seed and lets it grow. Theory number 85. The world beyond post-credits scene retroactively changes the entire franchise. Before that scene aired, the origin of the virus was a mystery, an unanswered question that the show used as an atmospheric tool. But after the scene reveals the French lab, and the French researcher, and the accusation that these scientists started it all, suddenly every earlier scene takes on new meaning. Dr. Jenner's despair at the CDC in Season 1 isn't just the sadness of a man who failed, it's the sadness of a man who is communicating with the very people responsible and watching them fail too. He says in Season 1 that the French were the last ones to hold out. Now we know why they held out so long. They weren't just fighting the virus, they were fighting the consequences of their own creation. And Jenner knew. He liked their approach. He was reviewing their data. The line between the CDC in Atlanta and the lab in France was always there. It just took a decade for the show to draw it. Theory number 86. Fear the Walking Dead's timeline doesn't perfectly sync with the main show. This one is more of an observation than a theory, but it has significant implications. Fear the Walking Dead begins before the outbreak and runs parallel to the early seasons of the main series. But as both shows progress, the timelines start to diverge in small ways. Events that should line up don't always match. The passage of time feels inconsistent. Some fans theorize that this isn't a continuity error. It's evidence that the virus didn't spread uniformly. The West Coast, where Fear is set, may have experienced a slightly different outbreak timeline than the East Coast. Different population density, different climate, different proximity to the French lab's pathogen distribution patterns. If the virus travelled through air currents and international travel, it would have hit different regions at different times. The inconsistencies might be the most realistic detail in the entire franchise. Theory number 87. The Rubik's Cube in Daryl Dixon has symbolic weight. In Daryl Dixon Season 3, Stefan Codron, a character who survived the Channel and has been on his own journey across Europe, arrives at the Camino de Santiago. He finds a Rubik's Cube that belongs to Laurent, the young boy Daryl is protecting. The cube is a small detail, easy to overlook, but the theory gives it meaning. A Rubik's Cube is a puzzle that looks simple, but is extraordinarily complex. It has billions of possible configurations, but only one solved state. Laurent, the boy the cube belongs to, might hold the key to solving the apocalypse. And the cube represents that potential. It's unsolved, scrambled. But it can be solved. You just need the right person with enough patience and intelligence to work through the combinations. Codron finding the cube and recognizing it is the show's way of connecting two storylines across continents through a single, humble object. Theory number 88. The UK survived the apocalypse better than America. The Walking Dead franchise has dropped hints, particularly in Daryl Dixon and in expanded universe material, that the United Kingdom weathered the outbreak more effectively than the United States. The theory behind this is geographic. The UK is an island. It can close its borders more effectively than a continental nation. If the virus required person-to-person contact or travel for its airborne form to reach new areas, island nations with strict early quarantine measures could have significantly limited the spread. This doesn't mean the UK escaped unscathed, but it could mean that functional government, organised military, and something resembling civilization survived there in ways that collapsed entirely in America. The franchise hasn't explored this in depth yet, but fans are desperate for a UK-set spin-off that shows a very different post-apocalyptic world. Theory number 89. The spin-offs create timeline contradictions that are actually intentional. This is a meta-theory about the franchise itself. Camp Coral shows the main characters as children meeting each other at summer camp before the apocalypse. But the main show establishes that many of these characters met for the first time after the world ended. The Patrick Star Show. Wait, wrong franchise. I'm kidding. But the Walking Dead spin-offs genuinely do create these kinds of contradictions. And the theory proposes that the showrunners are aware of them and don't care. Or rather, they care about something more than strict continuity. They care about telling good stories. Each spin-off exists in a slightly different version of the same universe, close enough to feel connected, different enough to stand on its own. The contradictions aren't bugs. They're a feature of a franchise that values emotional truth over timeline accuracy. Theory number 90. Every spin-off ends at the same thematic destination. Dead City asks whether Maggie and Negan can find family in each other despite everything. Daryl Dixon asks whether Daryl, the eternal loner, can build new connections after losing his old ones. The Ones Who Live asks whether Rick and Michonne can find each other again and rebuild what they lost. The surface details are different, the settings are different, the villains are different, but the question is always the same. Can you find family after losing everything? The theory is that this isn't just a recurring theme, it's the thesis of the entire franchise. The Walking Dead was never really about zombies. It was about people trying to rebuild the most fundamental human structure, family, in a world designed to destroy it. Every community they build is an attempt at family. Every betrayal is a family falling apart. And every spin-off is another version of the same search. Now let's get into the really wild stuff. The theories that have no business making as much sense as they do. The ones that will either make you laugh or keep you staring at the ceiling for the next 20 minutes. Theory number 91. The entire Walking Dead is a tabletop board game. A Redditor posted a lengthy and surprisingly well-argued theory that all the major plot points in The Walking Dead mirror the gameplay mechanics of a tabletop role-playing game. Specifically, The Walking Dead RPG. Character deaths follow the patterns of dice rolls. Resource management mirrors game mechanics. The way communities are discovered and interacted with follows quest structures. Even the way protagonists gain and lose allies resembles party management in a tabletop campaign. Is it a stretch? Absolutely. But once you start seeing the parallels, they're hard to unsee. And Games Radar featured this theory precisely because of how committed the original poster was to making every detail fit. Theory number 92. The series finale should have ended with a flyover. According to this fan theory, the perfect ending for The Walking Dead would have been a flyover. No dialogue, no final battle, just a camera pulling back and showing every location the group ever lived in. The quarry camp from Season 1, Herschel's farm, the prison, Woodbury, Terminus, Alexandria, Hilltop, the Kingdom, the Sanctuary, the Commonwealth, all of them shown one after another, illustrating how far these characters travelled and how much they lost along the way. The theory argues that every event in the show was necessary, and showing the physical trail of their journey would have been the most compelling way to prove it. CBR discussed this theory, and honestly, it would have been an incredible ending. Maybe in another timeline, that's how it went. Theory number 93. Rick's group is the villain of the entire franchise. This is Theory 15 revisited but expanded. Consider how Rick's group appears from the outside. They arrive at the CDC and it explodes. They settle on a farm and it burns down. They take a prison and it gets destroyed. They come to Alexandria and it gets overrun multiple times. They fight the saviors and hundreds of people die on both sides. They integrate into the Commonwealth and it nearly collapses. Every single place Rick's group touches is eventually devastated. Every community that takes them in suffers catastrophic losses. From the perspective of someone watching from a distance, this group isn't a band of survivors. They're a natural disaster in human form. And the radio broadcast during Tyrese's death, with Andrew Lincoln narrating in his real accent, describes exactly this. A roving group that leaves destruction in its wake. The Walking Dead aren't the zombies, they're Rick, Daryl, Carol, Michonne, and everyone who follows them. And the trail of ruin they leave behind is the evidence. Theory number 94. The walkers will eventually just stop. This is the optimistic theory, the hopeful one. If decomposition is real in the Walking Dead universe, and the show has been showing us increasingly rotted walkers season after season, then the threat has an expiration date. Tendons rot, muscles dissolve, bones become powder. A walker that's been shambling around for 10 years is barely holding together. Give it another 5 or 10 and it won't be able to move at all. The math is simple. Walkers decay. New walkers are only created when people die and aren't put down in time. If a community can control its deaths, destroying the brain before reanimation, and simply outlast the existing herds, the zombie threat will physically crumble. The franchise's timeline has stretched over a decade at this point, and the walkers from the early days should be little more than puddles of bone and goo by now. Some fans see this as the show's hidden endgame. Humanity doesn't need a cure. It doesn't need a hero. It needs patience and time. The thing that the walkers are ironically running out of. Theory number 95. The old man, Carl theory. This was one of the most popular fan theories during the show's mid-run. The idea was that the entire series was being narrated by an elderly, Carl Grimes, sitting somewhere in a rebuilt world, telling the story of his father and the people who survived the apocalypse to a new generation. It would have explained the show's sometimes cinematic framing, its emphasis on Carl's perspective, and the way certain events seem to be remembered rather than experienced in real time. The theory was beautiful. It gave the show a built-in ending. It positioned Carl as the inheritor of Rick's legacy, the one who carries the story forward. And then Season 8 happened. Carl gets bitten. Carl dies, and the old man. Carl theory died with him. Literally, Screen Rant covered this theory extensively, and the fan community mourned it almost as much as they mourned the character. It was the ending we deserved but didn't get. Theory number 96. The cure already exists, but nobody is looking for it. Alicia Clark survived a walker bite in Fear the Walking Dead. Her survival was attributed to radiation exposure, weakening the virus enough for her immune system to fight it off. The French scientists were close to a breakthrough before their lab fell. Dr. Jenner at the CDC was reviewing their data and said he liked their approach. The CRM spent years researching the virus. Even the variant walkers in France suggest the virus can be manipulated, modified, and potentially defeated. The theory argues that the cure, or at least the path to one, has been within reach for years. But every time someone gets close, something stops them. War, politics, ego, tribalism. The communities of The Walking Dead spend so much time fighting each other that they never pool their resources to fight the virus. The real enemy isn't the walkers. It's humanity's inability to cooperate long enough to solve a problem that affects everyone equally. The cure exists in scattered pieces across the franchise. Someone just needs to put them together. And nobody can stop killing each other long enough to do it. Theory number 97. The title The Walking Dead refers to the living, not the walkers. This one is confirmed by Robert Kirkman himself. He said it in interviews. He's written about it. The Walking Dead are not the zombies. The Walking Dead are Rick, Daryl, Carol, Michonne, Maggie, and every other survivor. They're the ones who are still moving through a dead world, still putting one foot in front of the other, even though everything they loved has been taken from them. They're dead inside in many ways. They've lost spouses, children, friends, communities. They've done things that would break a normal person, but they keep walking. The title isn't about the threat, it's about the characters. And the question the show asks over and over again is whether walking is enough, whether existing in a dead world counts as living, or whether, at some point, you have to decide to actually live again, to rebuild, to hope, to love, to stop being one of the walking dead. All right, 3 more, and I saved these last 3 because I think they capture something essential about the show, something that goes beyond Easter eggs and production tricks and fan theories. These are the ones that sit with you. Theory number 98. Every character who shows mercy dies. Dale Horvath argued for compassion. He begged the group not to execute Randall. He believed in the humanity of others even when it put him at risk. A walker killed him. Herschel Green took in strangers. He healed the sick. He believed in redemption. The governor cut off his head. Beth Green showed kindness to everyone she met, even the people holding her prisoner at Grady Memorial. She was shot in the head. Tyrese Williams refused to harden. He couldn't bring himself to be ruthless, even when the world demanded it. He was bitten and bled out. Glenn Rhee was the moral heart of the group, the one who still ran to help strangers, the one who never lost his humanity. Negan beat him to death with a baseball bat. The theory is that The Walking Dead systematically punishes compassion. It kills the characters who try to remain good. And the question it's asking the audience is whether you notice, whether, after watching this happen over and over again, you start to believe that kindness is weakness, that mercy is a death sentence. The show wants you to feel that pull towards cynicism, and then it wants you to resist it. Because the characters who survive aren't the ones who abandoned their humanity. They're the ones who found a way to keep it without dying for it. Carol, Daryl, Maggie, Rick eventually. They found the line between mercy and survival, and they walked it. Imperfectly, painfully, but they walked it. Theory number 99. Flowers always mean death in The Walking Dead. This is a pattern that spans the entire series, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. The Cherokee rose that Daryl gives Carol, the flowers in the prison garden that Herschel tends before the flu outbreak. And make the look at the flowers scene where Carol kills Lizzie, the flower growing from a dead walker's body in season 6. Every time flowers appear in the show, death follows, or death is already present and the flowers are growing from it. The show uses flowers as a consistent visual omen. They're beautiful, which is rare in this world, and their beauty is always, always paired with loss. It's a symbolic pattern that runs from season 2 to season 10, quietly recurring in the background of the show's darkest moments. The theory is that the writers established this early and maintained it deliberately. Flowers are not hope in The Walking Dead. They're memorials. They grow where people fall, and they remind us that even in a world of decay, something beautiful can exist, even if that beauty only marks what we've lost. Theory number 100. The show's real legacy is the question it never answered. 11 seasons, over 170 episodes, 6 spin-offs, a comic book series that ran for 193 issues, video games, novels, planned movies, and after all of that, The Walking Dead never definitively answered the question of how the virus started. The French lab gave us pieces, Kirkman gave us a joke about space spores, World Beyond gave us a post-credits scene, but there's no single definitive, inarguable answer. And the theory, the final theory, is that this was always the point. The Walking Dead was never about the virus. It was never about where it came from or how to cure it. It was about what happens to people when the world ends. It was about the choices we make when there's nothing left to protect us from the consequences. Do we become the governor? Do we become Negan? Yeah. Do we become Rick trying to hold on to something resembling justice in a world that doesn't reward it? Do we become Carol, sacrificing pieces of ourselves so others don't have to? Do we become Morgan, trying to hold on to principle even when it nearly destroys us? The virus is a backdrop. It's the inciting event. But the real story, the one that kept us watching for over a decade, is the story of whether people are worth saving. Whether, given the absolute worst circumstances imaginable, humans choose to build or destroy. And the show's answer, delivered across 11 seasons, through every death, every community, every betrayal, and every sunrise, is that we do both. We build and destroy at the same time. We love people and we kill people. We create miracles and we commit atrocities. And somehow, through all of it, we keep walking. And that's 100. Every single one. If you made it all the way here, if you're still awake and listening to my voice right now, I don't even know what to say. You're either the most dedicated Walking Dead fan on the planet, or you're a seriously committed insomniac. Either way, I appreciate you more than you know. If you fell asleep somewhere around Theory 30, or 50, or 70, that's perfect. That's literally what this video is for. You can always come back and listen to the ones you missed. They'll be here. I'll be here. I want to take a second, just a quick second, to say thank you. Making these long-form videos is a labour of love. Going through every episode, reading the fan theories, checking the facts, finding the sources, making sure everything lines up, it takes a long time. And the reason I do it is because this franchise meant something to me. The Walking Dead isn't a perfect show. It has its weak seasons, its questionable decisions, its moments where you want to throw the remote at the screen. But it also gave us Rick Grimes. It gave us Daryl. It gave us Carol's transformation from an abused wife to one of the most formidable survivors in fiction. It gave us Glenn and Maggie's love story. It gave us Negan, a villain so compelling that he became an anti-hero. And it asked questions about human nature that most shows never have the courage to ask. So whether you're drifting off right now, or you're lying there with your eyes half closed, or you're still wide awake and ready for more, I just want to say one thing. We are the Walking Dead. But that doesn't have to be a bad thing. It means we're still moving. Still here, still walking, sweet dreams. And if you haven't already, subscribe. I'll have more of these coming. Good night.